All right, so we start every episode with a breakdown, and today we've decided to break down the movie Bright from Netflix.
Neil, Carl, did you guys see this one?
Yeah, I saw it and whatnot. I watched it about 2-3 weeks ago and shit. Number one, because it's Will Smith and he from Philly and I'm from Philly, so I got to ride his dick because of that. But past that shit look crazy because they got them big old orc fuckers in that thing. I don't know what the fuck. It's like Harry Potter shitting on the TV screen.
So if you have not seen Bright yet, it's a buddy cop movie starring Will Smith and I'm sorry for the other gentleman. Mike's name.
Joel Edgerton.
Edgerton. And Joel Edgerton, who did a great job as an orc, by the way. And basically, it takes place in modern day. And imagine Training Day meets Dungeons and Dragons. So there's orcs, which are kind of like the minority. There's elves, which are like the rich elitist race, and then there's humans, and then like, you know, some fairies and other stuff in between, but mostly it takes place in modern day, and it's about the two of them trying to solve this crime, and they stumble upon this thing, and you know they've overcome all these obstacles.
I'd say it's more Rush Hour meets Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's like,
actually, that's a good
like Southland meets World of Warcraft.
I thought it was going to be Training Day meets Dungeons and Dragons, but it was Rush
dope
Hour.
if Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan were in that shit.
It was Lethal
No
Weapon.
orc never touched my radio.
Oh gosh.
No,
Well, what did you guys think of the movie?
I mean, I liked it, but like, so I'm a huge fan of David Ayer, a giant fan. But dude, I feel like he's just been like, he took some acid one day and changed or something. Like he used to do like Training Day, and now he's into like pretty clean 20-year-old witch ladies. I don't know. It's weird, man. Like he's got two witches, and Suicide Squad and Bright both had these like witch chicks, you know. I dig it, but
Suicide Squad had that black girl who had all the smoke around you.
Enchantress. Well, I don't think that, I could be wrong, but I don't think that was his call for Suicide Squad. I think that was the way the script was written already before he got into it, but I could be wrong, so I don't know.
I was
fact check that.
But it was on his watch. It was on his watch. You know,
I also heard that a lot of people, I heard a lot of people hating on it, but then again, I've also heard that the movie was the first out of a trilogy that's supposed to come out. Right. And so I understand how they had to sum up a lot of the storyline and make the storyline kind of, crunch it down and make it make sense for the first one just to get people's attention so they'll even think about the second and third one.
Now that makes sense to me because I was getting pissed in the motherfucker. I said, they didn't explain shit. I don't got no history. There was a war 2,000 years ago. Tell me something.
I definitely told you yesterday there was a sequel.
Same.
I definitely told you there was a sequel yesterday.
Well, we were drunk when you said that.
Here's the funny thing about that, and that actually, the Dungeons and Dragons analogy makes a lot of sense, because if you start a D&D campaign, you start kind of like in the middle, like where that happens. And there is a backstory that the dungeon master or whoever's, hosting the game has already created, and it's relevant to that story's plot line and relevant to moving forward, but it's not necessarily like, it's like Star Wars. Like they started on episode 4 because 4, 5, and 6 are probably the meat of it and the best. And then but they still had 1, 2, and 3 written to set 4, 5, and 6 up.
I feel like it's kind of like, what can we sell? Like the beginning of this movie, I don't know if we can really sell it, but the middle of this movie fucking will go ham. So maybe they just take the middle of the movie, make that the movie, and they're like, don't worry, we'll give you the beginning next. You know what I'm saying? But like Bright, that was one thing about it began, I was so in. Like the orc pulls up. The orc pulls up in the police car and he's like, don't never bring that fucking car or yourself. Like in my neighborhood ever get is super dangerous. And I was like, oh, this movie is sick. Like they were rolling down LA and there's spray paintings of like orcs being hung and murdered and shit. And that's what I wanted. And I just feel like there was 3 different movies for Bright. There was that, the orc and Will Smith being cops in LA. And then it just changed and it became like a sci-fi.
This is what me and my homies called doing too much. That's what I would say Bright is. Bright did way too much, and that's where it brings you back to. Like,
in what sense? What do you mean?
Did way too much, homie. I really definitely think that this shit could have stopped right where we heard the different classes of people, and this shit went straight to Training Day. But instead, they tried to make this into like some supernatural. In my perspective, we already had the supernatural shit and all these fucking people, different races and people, different types of like species in the world. That's all I need in terms of you getting me to like this that supernatural life. So I didn't really need for the plot then also to be all. It just had to be just
that being the one shit and all that,
and the magic wand.
I Am Legend Part 2 out this bitch.
But it had to make sense.
No, it didn't. No, to me, it didn't.
Well, then it would be a whole different movie. It would be a whole different movie.
Because I thought
the reason behind that movie is to get into what they're getting into.
Well, I didn't think that's what they were doing. I thought I was seeing Training Day with orcs.
Oh yeah, there was part for part Training Day.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is about to be dope, and then I was like, oh, okay, I see. I see what's. And you know what it felt like? It felt like someone took me on the tour bus of LA and shit. We were going through all the nice sights, and then we go by Malibu Beach, and I'm why are we stopping by the beach? Like why are we still driving?
Yeah, and on the beach there's a fucking witch.
It's like, hold on a second. Like, you already done show me the greatest attractions in this film. Why aren't we stopping here? You know what I mean? Like, why are we going to Skid Row now?
No, I
like,
get
fuck.
you. There was a lot. There was a lot to fucking soak in that movie for sure. But I think they had to do it to grab certain demographic of people, like the fantasy people. Like, okay, yeah, you can get the Training Day people, you can get the people that like Suicide Squad in action, but they also needed to grab other people as well. And I think maybe that's
like
what
in
they
my
did.
mind, I felt that they grabbed them by having all these different types of different species in the film.
I guess certain scenes didn't have to be in there for it to.
It got really deep for me. I was like, oh.
Well, and I will agree with Nick. And one thing I will say too, I do think it's cool that David Ayer, because I do feel like a lot of kids who live in like he grew up in, like an impoverished area in LA and blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of those kids actually love comic books and love fantasy and love D&D, but can't really admit it so much. And
it's
so
an
I feel
escape
like
for them.
Yeah, it's finally coming out. They're like, hey, like, people who live in ghettos and people who live poor and shit, like they could be nerds too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think David Ayer's bringing that out.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I was going to say about the fantasy thing. And I agree with your point, because coming from like a D&D perspective, one of the coolest things to imagine from that fantasy is, what if it did happen in the real world? Like, how would it actually play out? So it's not just like, I can wrap my head around like, oh, that dude's an orc, oh, that dude's an elf, because that's kind of just like, oh, that dude's, and it's a metaphor in the film, but like, oh, that dude's Chinese, oh, that dude's black, oh, that dude's Russian, or like whatever. So like, I get that, but the magic aspect of it with the wand and the chosen one, that's where the fantasy comes in, and half most of the best part about D&D and playing those games is putting yourself in that world and imagining that you're actually there living it. So what I think the film did was like take the real world and with that add that great dynamic and bring those two things together. So yes, Neil, it did do a lot. I totally agree with you, but it did go a little over the top sometimes. Like, I feel you on that.
Well, I kind of like with Neil on the situation,
come on,
because they have all the characters. So for me, all I needed was an explanation of why are these characters in the same world as humans? Like, did Harry Potter win the fucking war, and then now it's 2,000 years later, and we're just living life? And that would have been good enough for me, but I also see the fantasy side, because with fantasy people, there's always destiny, determination, time frame, and the recycling of life. Just like in the new Star Wars, the new chick is the new fucking Luke. The new fucking black dude is the new Han Solo. This is what they do.
Like, in my mind, like, after the first 30 minutes of that movie, they could have went to an episode of Law and Order from 1999 and just copied that shit, and I would have been satisfied. You know what I mean? Just make it a straight up crime drama. I would have been good.
So you rather have short and simple?
No, but they already complicated it.
No, but they overcomplicated it.
Exactly. You know what it feels like? It feels like these niggas done put out Kevin Durant, LeBron, Steph Curry, like 10 of my favorite niggas on the court, right? Yeah. These niggas should have won by 60, and these niggas won by 4. Because in the third and fourth quarter, they want to start throwing half-court alley-oops and whatnot. Doing like, relax, niggas. You already got this. You already have the game.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, what I like.
And they tried to put the mascot on the court and shit. Like, all right, fucking chill out. Like, that's why y'all winning. That's why you're down by 4, 2 minutes to go. Niggas, they should have won this whole thing way easier.
I think they could have.
What they did. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like.
And that's what I was going to bring up, is maybe like an alternate version of that movie could have been, I'm telling you, just the whole thing where the orc and Will Smith are trying to get by. Do End of Watch, but it's an orc.
Exactly.
Like,
that's right.
They're cop partners, and he gets in trouble because he's an orc and it's racist.
But
then that would be End of Watch with an orc.
Exactly. It's not original.
He just did Training Day with an orc. They literally had a part. He had mimic scenes from Training Day. He might as well say King Kong. I got orcs on me.
Yeah, but check this. would you rather see a Training Day orc movie or End of Watch orc movie? Because let's be real, Training Day was 10 times better than End of Watch.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
End of Watch was just Training
agree
Day
with that.
over again.
Well, this is my
that's not
No,
valid.
you're right.
But
you're
I'll agree
right.
with Training Day.
But it was
my
come on,
saving
Training
grace
Day
is
was better.
I didn't know what I was getting into when I started watching it. So now that I know it, if I watch it again, I'm sure now I'll get more out of it, you know. But me going into it, I thought this is going to be like. Usually, when I watch a film that takes me on a other journey, like I'm interested, and this did not make me interested.
Yeah,
like,
it was,
you know what I mean?
it was
When
good but disappointing. Like you
Yeah.
said, they brought out LeBron and them. It was like the Shaq team with Karl Malone or the Houston team with Charles Barkley. You motherfuckers supposed to win, and you out this bitch losing by 7.
Why is Reggie Bush on the court? Get him out of here.
What do you guys think about the critics' reviews? Because right when the movie came out, I saw it the night it dropped, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty dope. This is different." I liked Bright better than I liked Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch
you know.
Suicide Squad, to be honest.
So, but I like
Heard
the
it was
shots. I like that there was more humor. There was better humor. The shots were better. Everything about it,
Yeah.
I think, was just a little bit better
And dude,
than Suicide. But the critics fucking slammed Bright. There was like
I
a
never
6%
listened to
on
that.
yeah,
Rotten
it's bullshit,
Tomatoes.
man.
or-
I think they
What
really
did they
fucking.
say?
I mean, I
like
get
a
it.
horrible-
I get it
It
to an
was
extent,
terrible.
but
I hated it. I know. I
I
didn't get
remember
the
when
bad.
it
I
first
just
came
didn't
out, like the first
understand
article I
why.
said was, "This is
So
the
bad.
worst movie of 2017 is here."
Yeah.
It was
And I
like-
go,
yeah, I was
fuck you guys.
Like,
You know,
and I'm gonna say this right now: all of the criticism I have of the film has nothing to do with their critic reviews. I saw that and I still was like, yo, fuck that. I'll still watch it, you know. And I think it's even though all of what I said, I think it's way better than how they said it.
Bro, dude, it's got Joel Edgerton. I got to give a shout out to that guy.
He was
Joel
awesome.
Edgerton
He was hilarious.
Have you watched his other stuff? Anything he does is gold.
Yeah,
That man,
he's pretty good.
he's like the next like Daniel Day-Lewis or some shit. I swear. That's hot.
I
take.
mean, they brought a bunch of. Here's the thing: they made it really relatable because, and it wasn't so mainstream. First of all, it's Netflix, so they can do pretty much whatever the fuck they want. They're not adhering to a big studio. And I love in the opening, like the first scene. What do you see? Is the wife and Will Smith's wife in the kitchen watching Joe Rogan's podcast?
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
And that's featured in the movie. Joe
there's
Rogan
an
has an
orc on it.
orc
Yeah.
on his podcast.
And I'm
Fucking
sorry
dope.
to be the feminist in the room, but she was a strong lady. She had a job. She's a strong lady. She was white. She was like living in, and I just think that's cool because most women in movies are fucking like, oh, hey, like I don't do shit and I don't mean nothing to the movie at all.
Yo, she wasn't
She
that
didn't really
strong
either, bro.
Yeah,
She was
what
only
was
in
you
the
talking
very
about?
She was
beginning.
a fucking lady,
minutes.
man.
What are you talking about?
She worked hard, all right.
I think she gave him a kiss and said, "I love
know,
you. Don't
that
die
was it.
today."
She was a doctor. She was a doctor.
She was like, no, she was like, here, go take care of that fairy and there's this pest problem outside. She's like, I'm not even going to deal with this. You do it.
Instead of being, she
So
was
it's
like,
the exact opposite of what you just said.
damn.
Because she made him go.
I would
get
cut that part.
I just want to speak on those fucking fairies, by the way. Those little motherfuckers are scary.
They're
I want to kill the
hilarious.
fairy. I was like Will Smith. I wouldn't want to go outside and kill the fairy either.
No.
No.
They're just like big dragonflies.
But the thing about the show is I did like how they I think they got a lot of bad reviews because the show really pushes on personal issues of possible racism and bigotry and social disparity and economic concerns with the rich elves ruling the world and everybody else being like slaves. And then you got the orcs are like the new minorities. And then like now the minorities are yelling, talking shit to the orcs and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, and then you got the whole mixed relationship, almost like racism is gone. And now it's about humans versus these fantasy things. So I think low-key, it twinged a couple of nutsacks when they saw it because people probably felt a teeny bit guilty because it made them look at themselves.
But at the same time, though, they weren't even subtle about it. It wasn't even like some shit I picked up on. I was like, oh, you know what? No, I fucking that shit from the fucking poster.
It's modern times. People too stupid for subtlety.
Well, that's why I don't want the entertainment on the screen. I rather have.
I love
I
that.
want some shit that makes me like, hold on. This is like I want a double entendre. You know what I mean? And that shit was just like, yo, that was their
Yeah.
engine first, and then the story came after.
Like when the
You feel what
orc,
I'm
like when
saying?
the orc in the car next to him pointed at his fangs.
Yeah, it was like,
I'm still an orc, motherfucker. Like you sold out.
Yeah, like that was kind of like that was a cool little scene. You know what I mean? Because that's more like in depth rather than seeing like different races. I'm like, all right, I know everyone's different. You know what I mean? Rather than like that little subtext. Then now that was good in the movie. You feel me? Like
I
didn't dislike the movie. I just thought that I really thought it could have been way better, but it wasn't bad.
Well, maybe, like you said, maybe they're setting this up for a franchise.
No,
and
well, they
maybe,
are.
They are.
Yeah.
So,
It's supposed to be a trilogy.
well, because here's the thing that I wish would have happened is more time with the agents from the Bureau. Like, they were cool. That elf and that human going around, like, basically, they didn't do shit the entire. All they did was chase people on their tails. They didn't shoot at anybody. They didn't arrest anybody. They just showed up when everything was done.
They have a whole story on their own because that elf was seen as like a sellout too.
Right.
You know,
that
like
elf was chasing his own kind, and he had a history with the main villain, and they didn't elaborate at all
that's a
on
whole.
that.
That might be the second one.
Right. Well, this could be a continuation because obviously, like, this group of elves is not going to stop trying to do what they're trying to do. They just foiled this one little plot. You know, they foiled this one little attempt to bring back the Dark Lord. Spoiler alert, they're trying to raise the Dark Lord from the dead. Sorry, that doesn't really give away
about
plot.
fucking time.
One of my pet peeves I don't really like in films also is when like the characters in the film are so invested in something that I'm not invested in. Yeah, I hate that. I hate that shit. When people are in the movie are like, oh my god, this is the biggest shit. Oh like, fuck, what the fuck's gonna happen? I'm watching in the room like, what?
Yeah, I think it's because they didn't do much explaining with it. Like I said, there wasn't much backstory to the film. They kind of dropped you in there, you know, in the middle of shit, right? And there was no explanation in the middle. Or some guy that was like, well, you know, 3,000 years ago, Voldemort, the Dark Lord, this, that, and the third. You know, they don't really. But there's a open.
But there's a difference. Like if you, I'll refer to Black Mirror. If you watch Black Mirror, they always drop you in the middle of something, you know, but it's on purpose. Yeah. These guys were like, you know what? For the sake of shit, we'll just drop the niggas right here. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't like on purpose. It was just because that's where the script was. That's what I felt like, you know? Instead of like knowing that they're starting in the middle of shit and then working around that to build their story, they just started, you know what? Fuck it. Instead of pages 1 through 30, we'll make those pages 90 through 120 now. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, dude, that's how Star Wars was. In the opening of A New Hope is a fucking starfighter shooting at a Star Destroyer shooting at the Rebel Alliance
But you just said it before. They wrote 1, 2, and 3 before. They know that they're starting in the middle of shit. These niggas didn't sound like they know that they were.
Well, they didn't sound like it. Maybe
it sounds like when it's like when James Cameron said, "No, Avatar was always supposed to be a franchise." We're like, "You sure, man? You sure you didn't come up with that like today? You sure, bro?"
Yo, they fucking fell off the boat on that shit. Where's Avatar 2? Like, come on. Remember when that shit first came out? They were like, oh, 2016, get ready. We were like, oh, that's
2028. Avatar 1.5.
We were like, oh, that's gonna be a while, but shit, I'm ready. Yo, it's 2018. Where's my fucking next Avatar, dude? And it feels like I've seen like 4 Avatar movies since then. Like that technology is now outdated and shit. Like that shit don't even impress me. When it came out, oh, that shit was next level. They missed that shit.
Well, aside from the Avatar, to Bright, one of the things I really liked about, because I wanted to get this point across real quick, is the cops and the police department dynamic in that movie I thought was really accurate for a couple of reasons. Because first of all, they shot that here in South Central. They shot that in LA. And I have a friend that's on the force, at the homie who should not be named.
Shout out.
He told me that in his precinct, Will Smith came down and spent time with all the cops there.
I heard he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I heard he's cool too. He said he was dope, but he really learned like the dynamics of how the relationships work between the officers, what the protocol is, like checking in. You go there during the day, you get your assignments, you go out on the road, like how all that relationships and how all that protocol, I guess, works and procedures work. And I feel like that was one thing that was really honest. In the midst of all the fantasy and all the metaphors and everything else, like when you saw those cops interacting with each other, that was totally believable.
Dude,
that should have been their engine.
Yeah. Because it did highlight one thing for me. I could never, a bunch of reasons could never be a police officer, and thank God there are people who can, because I could not sit in a car with a motherfucker every single day for 8 hours. Like, I don't care how much I like somebody. It could be my wife, and I don't want to be in a car every single day for 8 hours with somebody. I can't imagine, man. You know what I'm saying?
But it's weird though, because I'm in the car a lot, and I don't even listen to music. I listen to podcasts because it feels good. Like it feels like somebody's there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like sports radio.
I think it would be fucking
yeah.
weird to sit next to somebody, because it's like, how much information could you possibly get out of one person?
A month.
You know, like
a month, and then you stop talking.
And then you're just
well,
you're just not homies anymore. Like,
well, guys, beating criminals and planning drugs is a bonding experience. Okay, so you think not now, but beat somebody's ass with a dude, you're gonna be feeling like fucking friends. Okay,
my partner can beat them minorities like you ain't never seen, boy.
Oh man.
One of the things that was hilarious was there's this dude, and this isn't a spoiler, it's actually not even a plot point, but there's that dude waving the sword around in the middle of the street. and he was like this crazy homeless dude waving his sword around. And they throw him in the back of the squad car, and he just takes a piss or like throws up.
That's
or whatever.
another. That's reason
That's
two
so
why
real.
I will never be. I could never be. The motherfucker pisses in my car once. I quit. I'm done. See you later.
All right,
I thought that was so funny.
I don't think that's how it works, though, right?
I'm off the foot. Here's my badge and gun. The motherfucker
Like, dude,
threw
you
up
just
in my
spent
car.
years training for this, and you finally made it. It's like, you've been
Nope.
doing this for
Not
10
worth it.
years,
Not
man,
worth
and you
it.
finally got on the force.
Here's my badge and gun. It's got piss on it, so be careful.
Well, one thing I did appreciate with Bright is that it's been the first time in a while I've seen Will Smith just kicking ass, not taking names, fucking shooting people in the head and shit. I haven't seen that shit in about 10 years. I'm thinking right now, like, even in Bad Boys, he's not really that. But you know what? That's probably the last one. And Bad Boys is 2002, right? I think that was a sequel. Wasn't like in 2002.
Well, when he's kicking ass? Like,
Yeah, what's the last Will Smith
I mean,
movie where he's
even
just
I Am
busting
Legend,
ass?
he was just running.
Yeah.
True.
He didn't
And
beat
he
up
had
anybody. Like, really, did he? I mean, those things would have torn him apart.
I mean, it
When's
was
the
more.
last-
Fought one of those.
Yeah, when's-
He beat up his dog.
Well, yeah, but like that
It was like a suspense movie.
But that's still like 10 plus years. I haven't seen Will Smith in a minute, just like
And I
just
love
mowing people down.
that he had a mouth on him. He was
Yeah,
like,
oh, yeah.
"What the fuck?
Exactly,
Shit,
yeah.
hell, damn it."
They
You
were
know,
like-
I'm
they were-
like,
Yeah, for sure.
They were like, "Don't hold back. You're gonna kill 4 cops in this movie." At point
That
blank.
is true.
You
He
can
does
say
spoil
fuck.
murder them motherfuckers.
Spoiler alert. But that was the other day. That was the other. I liked it, but they ripped it straight out of Training Day. That part where they were like, either you leave, like, you know, and we kill your partner, or we kill you right now. It was the
was
same
like-
shit when they found the money and Ethan Hawke in the,
Same
in the
shit
house.
with the dad, don't kill him.
Oh, dude, that was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
It was the same. He saved me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
But
I
hey, but I'm
agree.
not knocking it. I like that.
Yeah.
I do like David Ayer's got his thing. Do it. I like that. But now his thing is sci-fi,
You know-
or fantasy.
In that aspect, there's one thing to pay homage to a great movie that came before you. It's another thing to pull so directly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it kind of missed the mark, where this movie kind of pulled really directly
And from
in those
his
two
own
scenes.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a, you know, if it's your own movie, I guess you get a pass, you know, kind of thing. But
Is it, though?
I think that's a
That's
commentary
like
on
rap.
modern
yeah.
filmmaking.
It's like you're saying your same lyrics over
exactly,
again.
it's like you're not
or
doing.
it's like
Wait,
using the same similar beat over and
Cardi
over.
B is famous with Bodak Yellow, where she took the hook, she took the style, she took it, she told you she took it, and she's still the hottest rapper in the game.
Who'd you take it from?
Kodak Black.
No way.
She
Yeah,
said she liked
yeah.
Kodak Black. She said that's why she did it. She called him Bodak Yellow.
it's
She
still-
took his flow.
But it doesn't sound like him at all. No, have you ever heard any Kodak Black songs? Sounds nothing like
yeah,
him.
it's like the same flow.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Have you heard? Name me one Kodak Black song.
I only listen to it because of her.
Exactly.
I only listen to it because of her.
Ding, 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 ding.
I only listen to it because of her.
Name
When I
me
listened to
one
it, I heard
song.
her flow and I heard his flow, and I'm
No,
like, they
it's
got
not
the same fucking flow.
No way, not at all, bro. Not at all.